I'm pumped and excited to share with you about hive inspections. What time of the day do you inspect your hive? What should the weather conditions be? What are you looking for? All of these questions surrounding an inspection, so critical. Hello, everybody. David Burns, good to be with you today. Thanks for joining me today. We're going to be looking at a lot of things about inspecting your hive. This is going to be good for new beginners, especially, but it can be also very helpful for those of you that have been keeping bees for a while, but you need to fine tune your inspections quite a bit. But stay tuned all the way to the end because I have a bonus tip that will just help you out so much. Let's get right into it because obviously without an inspection, you have no idea what's going on in the hive. No, you cannot inspect your hive from 10 feet away. It'd be nice. We all want to do it. We all kind of want to step back and say, how's that hive doing? No other way to really know until you open the top, check under the hood, see how it's going. Also, I'm going to venture a little guess here and say some of you might be doing your inspections really not knowing what you should be looking for or what you are doing anyway. Maybe you did some inspections last year and you're kind of disappointed that you just didn't feel like you were the boss of inspection. So I want to help you today figure this out. Number one, the first thing, you want to inspect your hive at the proper temperature. Now, this is going to be about 65 degrees Fahrenheit or about 18 degrees Celsius. That's the temperature we feel that it's safe to pull a frame of capped over larvae out because the capped over brood, the pupae, is much more temperature sensitive. Pulling it up into the cold air at temperatures below, say, 65 or 60 can actually chill that developing pupae and kill them. And we don't want to kill the brood that we're just now coming out of winter with. Now, before I get into tip number two, let me encourage you guys to know that our spring sale on our online courses is going on right now, March 19th through the 25th, 2024. So take advantage of the savings, 50% off on our single individual online beekeeping courses, $100 off our ultimate beekeeping course that includes all of our courses. And it comes with a free subscription, 1-year subscription to Bee Culture magazine. So take a look at these savings right here. I'll leave a link in the description. Let's get into tip number two. Number two, how often should I inspect my hive? Now, this is the big one because a lot of people ask me this question a lot because some people that are new to beekeeping want to be in there a lot. They really are looking forward to doing all these inspections, looking at their bees. They like the hands-on feeling of seeing how things are going. But can you be in there too much, too often? Can you inspect your hive too many times? Yeah, you can. Well, what's the number? Well, here's the deal. I really promote that you should only inspect your hive every 2 weeks. Now, in swarm season, I think it's best to inspect your hive once a week to look for swarm cells. But once you get past these, the swarm season, I think it's only fitting to be in there maybe twice a month, every 2 weeks. So keep that in mind. Don't get in there every single day because you think it's fun and you love doing it. I know that I've told you guys sometimes I do that, but I'm kind of playing with my bees, making videos, doing experiments, and but it's better to kind of leave them alone as much as you can, but still take the time you need to check for mites and small hive beetle to make sure they're growing and the queen's laying and they have enough room to expand. This is so critical for those of you starting this year with brand new packages. Wow, listen to this. If you inspect your hive too frequently, I mean like every other day, as soon as you put your package in your hive, you could actually cause them to abscond. That means all of them are going to fly away. All of them, not a swarm, but I mean, all the bees are leaving. So that's another reason we don't want to inspect too often, especially right after we install them. Now, what should the weather condition be upon inspection? You think, well, I want to go out there on a good day. What's the best day to do an inspection? It really needs to be a nice day. Simply put, it's going to be a day when bees are foraging. It's above 65, 70 degrees. Everything looks good. Don't go out there, and I've done this, and it's bit me in the butt, but I'll tell you, I've done it a few times when I've gone out and done an inspection with an approaching storm. You can see it lightning, you can hear it thundering, and I got to get this inspection done really quick. All the bees are desperately flying back to the hive to beat the storm, and here I am opening it up, and they're like, David, would you get out of here and put the lid back on? There's a storm coming. So it's better for you to do inspection when the barometric pressure is on the rise. That means good weather. And it's sunny and the bees are flying. Now, what's the best time of the day to inspect? Well, the best time of the day to inspect is when the bees are flying and foraging. Foraging means that a lot of the foragers are going out getting nectar. So there's less bees in the hive. It's just more fun to work a hive when there's less bees in there. And so I usually think between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. in the afternoon is when you're going to get the bulk of the bees out flying and foraging. I mean, it's not an exact science. You can go out there at 8 because sometimes my bees start foraging at 5 a.m. and they stop at 5 p.m. But I'm just saying, if you had to pick a window, 10 to 2 is going to be a great window to inspect your hive on a very nice day. Before I get into the next tip, let me encourage you to please subscribe. It means so much to me, and Bobblehead David is here to encourage you guys to please subscribe to my channel. Also, it helps the algorithm if you can leave a comment below. Let me know your bee experience, what's happening. Give me a thumbs up. Now, I know when you're starting beekeeping and you're just starting with a new package, the colony seems small and they don't seem very defensive. They're easy to manage and they're kind of fun little group of bees. And you're tempted not to wear any, much protective gear out there. I would say get in the habit of really wearing at least a jacket and a hat and a veil. A bee jacket that comes with a hat and a veil. I mean, you can get by with a hat and a veil. You certainly want to keep bees off your head, out of your face and such like that. But I would not recommend going out there in your bikini and doing your inspection. Well, I can't tell you what to do, but I won't be wearing my bikini and doing a bee inspection. No way. I won't even wear shorts. Now, I know a lot of people do wear shorts when they go out and inspect their hives, but I don't like bees up my pants, if you know what I mean. So I want them to have, I want there to be more indication that there's a bee crawling up my legs. I want them to start way at the bottom so I can have some time to deal with it. But you get the point. Learning to wear the proper bee protection, I think, is critical because you're going to enjoy your inspections much more if you're not worried about bees up your pants or something like that. So try to get in the habit of just putting on a bee suit, a bee jacket, hat and veil. Now, gloves is entirely up to you and probably depends on the nature of the hive, right? If you have a hive that is just so gentle, why wear gloves? But if you're working a hive that is on the pretty defensive side, boy, it's going to make your fingers feel better at the end of the day had you been wearing some gloves. We got lots more tips coming up, but let me tell you what I'm excited about tonight. It's Thursday on the day of publishing this video. Live stream every Thursday, 7 p.m. Central Time. So fun. I like to give things away. We have giveaways, and also I answer your questions, and I usually have a short time of teaching about bees. Be sure and join me every Thursday, 7 p.m. Central Time, and let's get back to these tips. Number 5, make sure you use the same hive tool in the same bee yard. In other words, you don't want your friend down the road coming over that also has bees with their hive tool from their bees using it in your bees. Because if there are contaminants, some kind of bacteria or something, American foul brood on their hive tool in a hive that they don't know about, they're going to spread it to your hive. So I think it's cool to continue to use the same hive tool in the same hive area, the same yards, and if you can afford it, maybe the same hive tool for each hive, but no one's going to do that. But just make sure you don't take your hive tool over to somebody else's yard either. Number 6, make sure that you use very slow motion, smooth, gentle movements when you're working your bees. Don't be loud, don't be banging, bouncing, don't be clumsy, don't be dropping things, don't be smacking things down. Try to be very calm and quiet and peaceful and work in slow motion. It will help your bees be so much more calm. Now, number 7 is a great tip. You're going to love that I'm going to tell you this. You're going to love me for sharing this one with you. But don't let other people go out to the bee yard with you until you are very comfortable and have a lot of confidence in working your bees. If you go out there and you're all nervous and you're all, it's your first or second inspection and you've got grandma and a few aunt and uncles and their kids and their grandkids and their great grandkids and they're all running around your hive as toddlers and knocking your smoker over and you're trying to oh no, I'm going to inspect this hive so I can show everybody that I'm a beekeeper so they can look at the bees with me. No, let's don't do that. Let's just wait a little bit until you get very confident, built up, and you can go out there and feel pretty good about your inspections and what you're doing. And I think it's a good idea to make sure that anybody that's going to be out there with you as a spectator, I know what happens, make sure that your spectators have the proper gear on too. Because I've had people, while I work in my hives, I've had people come up to me, I'm wearing a full suit with a smoker and gloves, and they will walk up to me in an open hive and stand 2 feet away from me as if, don't you understand why I'm dressed like this? I mean, really? And then all at once a bee gets after them and they take off running. So as a beekeeper, just go out of your way to help other people understand that you need to wear protective gear if you're going out in the bee yard with me. Number 8 is a fun one. Good advice here. Take everything you need with you to your hive area, to your bee yard. Like you want to take extra smoker fuel. You want to take the smoker, the hive tool. You want to take reading glasses or a magnifying glass to look for eggs. You want to take a hydration drink with you. You want to take everything that you can think of that you'll need so you don't have to leave your hive open as you run back into the house. Also, take along your cell phone just in case something happens and you have an emergency out in the hive area. You don't want to be stuck there without being able to get in contact with someone. So take your cell phone with you, and also take a first aid kit. I've cut myself on a hive tool, so I had a Band-Aid handy. You know, things can happen. A little first aid kit out there with some alcohol swabs or something can be a big help. First aid kit, cell phone, anything like that you can think of. Just kind of go through your mind a checklist of what might happen out here. And I want to make sure that I'm ready and have everything that I need. Now, finally, let's talk about the inspection. This is what I'm pumped and excited about. When you're doing in your inspection, I want you to kind of go through in your mind and think, what is it that I need to inspect? This is something I want all of you to get in the habit of doing. I want you to inspect for one thing. That's right. Go out there and do an inspection for one thing. Okay, if you're experienced and you're confident in what you're doing, you can bump it to 2 or 3 things. But here's a problem. A lot of new beginners, they open up their hive for the first or second time and they have to look for and at everything. And the funny thing is, they're looking at everything possible, inspecting it like looking for anything. And when they're done, they sometimes don't remember anything that they saw. So that's why it really doesn't do us much good to look at everything we can think of. So go out there with 1 or 2 things in mind and say, I want to look for the queen. I want to see if my queen is alive and walking around. Open a hive up, slow motion, smoke and everything, and see the queen, you're done. Maybe you want to look for eggs. That's your verification. You see eggs, you're done, close it up. Maybe the next inspection, you want to do a mite test. Do your mite test, nothing else. Some people do a mite test and they go crazy trying to find maybe the queen, for example. Now, sometimes I will say that when you're doing an alcohol wash, it is better to find your queen first, because you don't want that queen to wind up in the alcohol wash. So I'll give you that one. But if you're doing a mite test, find your queen, get your 300 bees, do a mite test, and close the hive up. Be done with it. Don't try to do a whole bunch of other things on that day. That day is a mite test day. Do your next inspection. Let that be the time that you're going to maybe manipulate the frames or add more boxes or something like that. Do things. You've got plenty of inspection days ahead of you. Don't try to do them all in one day. Now, I want to touch base on the smoker. This is really important because a lot of beekeepers really struggle with the smoker, keeping it going. I understand that. I can remember back in the early days, that was kind of tough for me until I finally figured out all the little nuances of keeping that smoker going. You do want your smoker going at all times, because if your bees get kind of defensive, you want to be able to deal with it. So here's what I want to really encourage you to do. Practice with your smoker long before you get your bees. In other words, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, long before you're going to get your new package or your nuke or something, I want you to take your smoker out there and practice it. See if you can keep your smoker going, making good smoke for 15 minutes. Now, don't sit there and puff it, because that's not what you're going to do during an inspection. During an inspection, you're going to puff it and practice maybe puffing 4 or 5 puffs of smoke like you would be looking at a hive, and then set it down and maybe wait, I don't know, 2 to 3 minutes, pick it back up and see if it's still smoking again. That's how the system, that's how it kind of works. You puff your hive a little bit, you set your smoker down, you inspect a little while, then you pick it back up to calm your bees again. So practice that kind of rhythm, that kind of timing sequence, so that you can see if you have the skill to keep that smoker going. And if you find that it went out, begin to look at, why did it go out? Did I put too much smoker fuel in there at one time? Did I not get a good flame going in the beginning? You know, tweak it until you're very efficient at running that smoker. While we're talking about smoking, sometimes people ask me, should I take some sugar water instead of a smoker? It's called a spritz sprayer. I can just spray some sugar water on the bees. That way they'll get busy cleaning off each other and they will be calm by this spritz spray. That has never worked for me. I've tried it. I've read some articles. I've read Reverend Langstroth's book in the 1800s. He talked about trying that out. And it never has gone well for any of us. But I know there's some people who prefer that. I don't want to spray sugar water on my bees during an inspection because, I don't know, I feel like that sugar water doesn't really help calm them for me. And the sugar water is sometimes getting into the frames, onto developing larvae and such. Whether or not it hurts them, I don't know, but I'm just not going to do that. Smoke seems to be something that we've used forever. I mean, that's the first picture of the beehive in a cave. Somebody was using a burning, something to kind of calm the bees when they first discovered bees. So it's been around a long time and it works well. Why fix it if it ain't broke, So I'm smoking my bees. Now, when you're working your bees, be sure and pull up your frames very slowly. You're going to be using a hive tool, maybe a hive tool like this one or a J-hook. And whether it's a J-hook or one like this, you're going to pry one end up and then you're going to pry the other side up and you're going to pull it up out of the hive very slowly. You're going to flip it over, look at both sides. But again, learn the art of handling. This is something you can practice again before you get your bees. Just get a frame. It can be an empty frame and just practice holding it like you would if there were bees on it. Now remember, it's going to be a little heavier. It may weigh as much, if it has some honey on it, 3, 4, 5 pounds with the bees and wax and all. So just practice managing how you're going to handle it, how you're going to feel it in your fingers. I usually hold it out here by the ears of the frame on the edges, and I'll get a good grip and so I can rotate and see both sides of it. Now, all of us will start with one frame closest to the wall usually, or the second one, and we'll pull that one out. And usually we keep it out of the hive so that we have space in the box now to move frames around without having it so close to the next frame. So when you pull a frame out and you're done with it, you don't want to put it back in the hive until you inspect the rest of them. There are things like this. You hook it on the side of a box and then it hangs on the outside of your hive. Then you can put your frames in the little grooves like this and it just hangs there. So these are nice little handy little tools that you can use as well. If you don't have one of these, then you can always do what I do most of the time, is just kind of lean this up to the side of the hive like this. Now, when you're doing your inspection, make sure to put the frames back in the same order that you took them out of the box. Now, numbering them on the front or the top front of the frames helps. 1 through 8 or 1 through 10, whether you have an 8-frame hive or a 10-frame hive. Number them, and if you put the number toward the front of the hive, then you can put them in numerical order with those numbers facing the front of the hive. That way they always go back in the same order if that's the method that you choose to do. Now, I usually mix my frames up during the inspection. I'm keeping track of where I want my resources to be. So that's another level of beekeeping skill that you'll get when you get a little more established. But sometimes experienced beekeepers, we do move our frames around to support the brood area. We may put a frame of honey closer to it, for example. But in the beginning, just try to put those frames back the way that you got them, because let's face it, bees know what they're doing. Now put the hive back together again, such as if you're using an inner cover, then you put your top cover on, then you put something on top of the top cover so the wind doesn't blow it off. And you're not finished until you clean up all your toys. So make sure you clean up the bee yard. Don't leave this out in the bee yard. Try to make sure you pick your hive tool up. And also a very important part is taking your smoker away from your hive and away from dry grass and put it on some gravel, some rocks or concrete so that it doesn't catch your grass on fire. Some people will shake the smoker out and get rid of all the fuel in there. Now, what I like to do is when my smoker is finished, when I'm finished my inspection, I don't open the lid and shake my fire out. I actually take a cork that I make out of a stick and I wedge it into the top of the canister smoker, and that snuffs it out. And that makes all the fuel that's in there still available and ready to go on my next inspection. And that way I don't waste my fuel and I don't threaten to burn all my property down because I shook some flaming embers out onto the grass or something. So be sure to be safe with that smoker. It is hot, don't burn yourself. Now, I promised to give you a bonus tip. Here it is. Let's say you're working a hive and you've got a frame in your hand like this. Everything is going good. You braved up and you're not wearing any gloves or anything. And all at once you get stung, ouch, right on the hand. What do? Now you can't throw this because it's full of bees and all those bees will be agitated. What you want to do is be very calm. Take it Just suck it up. I know it's going to hurt. Take this frame, be calm, and put this frame back in the hive or set it in a frame holder like I demonstrated. Now you want to take your hive tool that has a sharp edge to it and scrape out the stinger. Don't pinch the stinger because you're injecting all the venom. Scrape out the stinger, grab your smoker, smoke where you were stung to mask the pheromone odor. And now you might be done for the day if that pheromone odor has excited your bees, or maybe you're too, dramatized by what happened. You may want to just put the hive back together and wait 2 or 3 days and go back again. Or it may be that you're experienced and you're like, okay, that wasn't too bad. You keep going, your bees aren't none the worse for it. So you have to kind of always kind of look at your bees and kind of understand, are they in a stinging mood today, or was that just one stray thing that maybe I caused by pinching one of the bees on my frame? Now here's a bonus tip that you didn't even expect. What do you do if you get a bee in your bonnet? And that's really not in your bonnet, but what if you're working bees and you get a bee in your hat and veil on the inside? At first you think that bee has to be on the outside, right? Because you can't really tell, it's so close. It's like, no, I think it's on the inside. All at once you're like, oh my gosh, it is on the inside. Now you have a bee inside your hat and veil. What do? The first instinct for many new beginners is to rip that hat off in the middle of the bee yard where all the bees are flying and expose your entire head to hundreds of bees in the air. So that's not the best thing to do. Simply empty your hands of whatever you're holding and then walk out of the bee yard away from where other bees are flying. You don't have to walk real far. Just walk away from the hive away so that the bees aren't all over you. And then simply take your hat off, let that bee out. And so that's probably the best way to do it. Now I want you to come with me and watch me work bees, watch how I handle bees. We'll even pick up the queen, okay? Follow me over to this video. I'll see you guys over there.